Hi, my name's Josh Sperry, and this is my presentation on the class on Pastoral Ministry. I kind of broke this up in three different sections that stood out most to me and I thought was most important for this class. And the first one that you'll see here is as a practitioner. This took some time to focus on a few main ideas, and one of those was small groups. And this is the idea of living as a community of people. It really makes an impact on the lives of individuals. We were made to do life together. The reality is the content of our small groups matter. We need to take the time and the energy to figure out what that looks like. Community matures and transforms God's people. We get to do this together, and that gives us the opportunity to multiply and actually to launch more groups. This sets us in places to develop our leaders so that they can go and actually lead other small groups as well. I love the way that Dietrich Bonhoeffer said this: sin wants to have man by himself, and we were just not created for that. We were created for community. And in a community, we are not ourselves by ourselves. We are ourselves when we are together. Another point that I thought was so important in this is spiritual maturity is not arguing with God's word. It really comes down to obedience. Obedience is spiritual maturity. In this class, it also talked about different ways that we get to be pastors in ministry. Some of those are pastoral care, counseling, funerals, weddings, and walking with people through moments like death and walking through that grief. A moment that I wrote down that will be a new part of my practice as a pastor is sending a letter or a note a year after someone's death. I think this is a moment that is easy to forget often. And in funerals, weddings, those things, use their names, make it personal and make it meaningful. I also think that it's important for us to be honest about the circumstances that led to those moments. We end with hope, but honesty is important. Secondly, in this overall, is learning to lead you. We all understand this is the hardest person to lead ever in our lives. The reality is many are educated more than their level of obedience. And I touched that just a moment ago, but obedience trumps everything else. Character and integrity is more important, I believe, now than in a long time. We live in a culture of Twitter, Facebook, social media, these quick, catchy half-truths. And at the end of the day, character and integrity should trump all of those things. I was also reminded in this the importance of soul care, of taking care of myself. Frederick Douglass said it this way: if a man's life cannot stand the scrutiny of his wife and children, we dare not put our souls under his care. A few years ago, I was closer to burnout than I wish I would have to admit now. And one of the reasons of that was I was working bivocationally, holding too much, and I needed to do some better job with soul care. I needed to remind myself that I'm not Superman as much as I'd like to be. That this ministry work is hard, and it's okay to admit that to ourselves. It's worth it, it's wonderful, but it's hard. We need to exercise regularly. We need to get good sleep. Just in the way that an athlete is committed to what they do, we need to do the same. This broke down an idea from some sheep as a shepherd that I think is really important for us to hear. Spiritual sheep or stray sheep or searching sheep, really, they're not as concerned about knowledge and skills as they are about the heart of the one leading them. And at the end of the day, we need to lead ourselves best. And thirdly is leadership. Leadership at the end of the day is servanthood. That is what we've said yes to, is to serve others. Learning to listen and to listen carefully. It's in this window that we really get the inside scoop to someone's heart, and we get to do that as leaders. I think the most important thing that we can do as leaders is to pray, pray, pray again. The Bible tells us to pray continuously, and we can do that in leadership. Andy Stanley brought some great ideas in this as well, and he said this: level 5 leaders aspire to be the dumbest people in the room. We should be intimidated by the people that we invite to the table. We don't need to be the professionals and everything, but we get to lean on those that might be. And as we even think about leading ourselves and leading others, it's possible to read every book and listen to every single podcast and still not learn anything. We're leaders or readers, we should learn, but at the end of the day, we have to understand that what we put into practice matters most. A warning for us is if we believe that leadership is ultimately by how well we deliver the goods, we're going to really be discouraged leaders. In the end, we will fail in our calling as a leader. What we've really been called to is equipping and an ongoing continual process of discipleship with those that we love and care for. Also, when it comes to leadership, the questions that we ask our staff and our team members tell a lot to our team about what's most important to us. If the number one thing you talk to your team about is budget, they're going to care about numbers more than people. And the truth is, for all of us, there's no substitute for faithfulness as leaders. Leadership with others, leadership with ourselves. Joseph Stowell said it this way, and I think this is the best way for us to end this class, is it's hard to argue with a life so well lived. We've said yes to the call. It's a wonderful thing to say yes to. But at the end of the day, we need to be discipled ourselves, and the fruit of our lives will be seen in our families and the way that we act out this call. Thanks for taking the time.